Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the last call of 2023 in this group anyway. I know I'm like winding down. Gonna be on a beach in a few days. I'm so excited. Got a new lip color to go with it. Feeling pretty good, feeling pretty great about that. And I am going to release the role of hosting this over to Dr. Selvi tonight. We are talking about releasing the identity of being sick, which is so important for all of us who may have some identity, some beliefs, some thoughts around being sick or being in sick bodies. I know that that was like a big thing for me with the Hashimoto's, and I still am practicing new language there and how I relate to this disease that I've been diagnosed with, right? It's interesting when we have that diagnosis. What does that mean though? You know? Um, and I actually thought I would kick us off with a little story and then hand it to you. And then I'm going to be joining from my phone because I am driving to my chiropractor who helps me with my energy and my body. So, but I thought it was really interesting. I was talking to a client earlier today who she came to us because she had gut symptoms, and we typically always run full set of blood work, including a full thyroid panel when someone comes in. And when we ran it, she had antibodies against her thyroid, which if I was a doctor, I might say, hey, you have Hashimoto's, but I'm not a doctor, so I can't say that. But I said, hey, you should go talk to a doctor because there look like some antibodies are showing up on this test. And she had no idea there was anything up with her thyroid. And I just thought it was really interesting because for her, what I practiced was giving her different language in the description of this, because she didn't come in thinking she had a thyroid problem, right? She came in knowing she had a gut problem. And often, like, so what we focus on, it becomes part of our story. So I didn't really want to encourage the language of like, you have an autoimmune disease that you'll never get rid of, or like all the things that were told to me that got ingrained. And so I was like, hey, there's probably, you're bloated. There's probably some infection or something that's a temporary infection going on in the gut that we're going to clean up. And I bet you these antibodies will drop down. And so it was really interesting today because her antibodies spiked when she was at the height of the infection, and now they've dropped. They've just fell off a cliff. Technically, they're still there, but they're so much lower since we dealt with the infection. And so it was kind of interesting because I noticed she never really like latched on to the Hashimoto's diagnosis. And like, oh, cool. So like language we use, how things are delivered to us and how we internalize them, I think makes a huge difference in how we walk through the world with these different diagnoses or just diseases, or maybe not even calling them that. So with that, I'm going to shut up. I am going to be mostly on my phone tonight. I'm going to log in on my phone in just a few minutes, and I will let Selvi take over.
Thank you, Sophie. Yeah, I'm so excited about this because I think kind of piggybacking on what you said, like the identity means so much, right? Potentially, or not so much, right? So yeah, I'm super excited to dive into this because I know for me too, like working through this particular piece was a huge part of what ultimately led to me being able to make the decision to get off of medications altogether, knowing that my body was stable, was just disentangling myself from this identity of I have Crohn's, and like actually Crohn's had me, but anyway, we'll get to that. All right, let's see. I got all these fancy buttons at the bottom and I'm like, how do I do this? All right, share my screen. All right, can y'all see? Awesome sauce.
Yes.
All right. Yay. Okay. So Carly's here. Yay. I feel like I need to throw a party every time she enters. Carly. Okay. That's such a freaking dork. All right. So I want to talk about releasing the identity of being sick. Okay. So for me, there was this huge identity that was wrapped into this diagnosis: Crohn's disease, autoimmune disease, all of the things that it meant, kind of like what Sophie was saying was, you have this autoimmune disease. You will never get better. It will always be a part of you. You must always be on medications for the rest of your life, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So that was what I latched onto. And that was what my reality became, right? And so to move once I shifted the lens on that, which was years to figure out how to do that, but that moved me from a state of sickness and illness to one where I finally was able to have real healing, real health and clarity. Okay, so curious, throwing this out to you guys, do you identify as being sick or ill or having a specific diagnosis, like being this person? What does that mean to you? You can either unmute, you can type it in the chat, whatever. Everyone's quiet today.
All right, I'll go.
Okay.
Oh, there's a chat. There's a comment in the chat.
Oh, yay. And then two, focus. Absolutely. Kelly, are you in a space to elaborate more on that? Or are you, I know you don't have your camera off, so I don't know if you can jump in or maybe type a little bit more in the chat. Just curious, but
Yeah. Just I think breaking that cycle for myself has been very helpful, but I still fall into it. It's a work in progress, but every time, I have a symptom or I'm not having a good day or whatever, I can feel myself sort of not giving up, but just letting it be the excuse. So, I'm not feeling good today. It's because of I have this or I have this, instead of working on telling myself that my body has overcome so much that this is just a little bump in the road, and I might be better tomorrow, I might be better in a week. And going back to my tools, I just sometimes have to remind myself my body has done so many amazing things and it will again. I'm not falling back to where I used to be.
And that's huge. I don't know if you were able to tune into or to notice how your body felt when you were talking about the former versus the latter. I was able to feel much more of a sense of openness and lightness as you were talking about what the truth is, right? Which is the second part. Excuse me. And it's true, when you're so focused on your diagnosis, it absolutely puts that lens on everything you do. Like you said, it's like, it's because of this, or it's because of that, or, sometimes like it just literally starts to run your life. I know for me, it was just like every bite of food I put, it was like, oh God, what the heck is this going to happen? Because I have Crohn's, so therefore I can't do this, or I can't do that. And it just became this real limitation. So there's that. Carly, I love that perspective. I mean, yeah, like rejecting it, it's two sides of the same coin ultimately, right? Where it's just like, So does that mean that like you don't see it, kind of like it's shoved away? Like, what does that mean to you?
I will sometimes. I'm sort of newly diagnosed within like the last year and a half. I wasn't like looking for the diagnosis. Like I didn't go in thinking that I had Hashimoto's. So it sort of came out of nowhere. And obviously it didn't come out of nowhere, but it felt like it came out of nowhere.
Sure.
So there will be times when I like forget that I have it. And then as soon as I start to get symptoms, I like have so much resentment towards it. And then I like don't want to bring it up as the possibility. I don't want to be like, oh yeah, I'm like pushing myself a little too hard and I'm probably gonna flare up, because I'm afraid that I'm going to like, then that's gonna be like a pattern. But then it's like I'm so aware of the fact that I'm doing it that I think it's almost like a pattern anyway.
Gotcha. So it's almost like hyper awareness.
Yeah, that's like mismatching with myself too, because like even today I've been like really tired all day. Like in my mind, it's like I'm just telling myself I'm tired because I know I have Hashimoto's, and then like I'll kind of like resist resting when that's the thing that I probably need to be doing.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. And what if, yeah, I've done that too. Like totally being in denial, being like, okay, I'm just gonna ignore you altogether. I don't want to deal with this shit. But what I'd love to offer is, what if being tired is your body just saying, hey, I'm tired? Like, do we really need to make that mean something?
I
Like,
think what it's doing is it's like anchoring me back into all the symptoms that I thought I was clearing up. And then when I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's, even though I was actually clearing up the symptoms, it sort of was like this like it just feels like a life sentence almost.
ooh, yeah. That's exactly how I used to feel. And what was interesting about that was that I realized at some point that this was more or less a prison, like for me, that this was a prison that I had more or less kept myself in. Like the door was open the whole time. I could have walked out and I was just sitting in there because everyone told me that that's what I needed to do. And so I believed it, right? So yeah, so it doesn't need to stay that way. Just because it is that way today, I'm not here to fix that, change that. Nothing needs to be fixed or changed. Doesn't mean, though, that that needs to be your reality forever and ever, if that helps. All right, so I want to help you guys try and unpack this. So, all right, we talked a little bit about this. What does this really mean to you, right? Like, well, actually, let's talk about this. What does this identity mean, right? It's just, I don't want to see it or it's running my reality. But what does this mean, this diagnosis, this person? Like, how do you see that part of yourself? What does it mean to you? Is there a fear, like we were talking about, right? That this is going to be the rest of my life. Oh, shit. Like, can we voice some of this?
Oh, I want to go.
Yes, please.
So I have been in the past diagnosed with complex PTSD. And a couple weeks ago I had what I would call like a CPTSD flare. And the voice that came through was like, why? Like it was so interesting. It was so old. It was like this victim. Like, why does all this stuff happen to me? Like, why does this keep happening to me? Or why am I back here? Like I thought I dealt with this already. So I was able to do some parts work in the moment and do some timeline therapy in the moment to kind of get myself through it. But it was an interesting voice. I was like, oh, that part is still there. Like she's like yelling right now. Like, you know, and so that's not the only thing it's meant, but it's like definitely meant that recently.
Yeah, no, I totally hear that. And it's interesting because I feel like sorry, my figures are on crack right now. Apparently I can't keep myself still. God, where the fuck was I going with that?
I don't know, but yeah, just
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
up sometimes, or yeah, like I also can just relate to what like other people have said where it's like, oh, that's all of who I am, or I don't really do that anymore, but I used to say like, oh, I can't do this because of my Hashimoto's.
yes. Oh, yes. That's such a powerful story. Gosh, the things I used to tell myself, I can't do this because I have Crohn's. I can't do that because I have Crohn's. Um, and now I look at my life and I'm just like, who am I? Like, you would tell me that someone with autoimmune disease would, have gone through what I went through, grew up in a traditional Indian household, walked away from a marriage, got divorced, moved to New York City, opened a health coaching practice, salsa dances until the wee hours of the morning just for shits and giggles, like goes out, eats, drinks, enjoys life to the fullest. Like if you told me this when I was diagnosed, like God, back in 1996, I would have told you you're crazy. The hell are you talking? I can't do that. Kelly had shared something in the chat. Here we go. Fear that I won't be anyone else other than someone who is sick always. Yeah, it's terrifying, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, that was my fear too. It's just like, this is it? Like, this is it. Really? This is all I get? What the hell? And I didn't want to face that, right? So it was easier to deny that part, like to just pretend that it wasn't even there because that just hurt too much rather than face it. So yeah. I also want to just acknowledge you guys because it takes courage to take a look inside and look at these parts, right? These painful parts of us. And that identity of being sick is really a triggering one. Anything more you want to share about that, Carly? Feeling that you feel so depleted when other people with the diagnosis seem fine?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because I'm pretty good at putting up a mask. So I'm well aware of the fact that just because people seem to be one way, I mean, I also coach clients. So like I know I know the insides of their head. Like, so just because people are presenting one way, I know that doesn't mean that it is actually that way. But it was really interesting because when I did decide to post, I'm like I used to be a very private person. I'm not really anymore. But so I had actually decided to post about the diagnosis, which was pretty big deal for me. And it was really interesting what happened when so many people were responding that they also had Hashimoto's, because I felt like so crappy. And I'm like, like, why do all these people seem fine? Like they're working 9 to 5 jobs. They're like I wouldn't have known that they had it, which is, I guess that's the point. But I don't know, it was weird to me that I posted it thinking it would be comforting and actually ended up having the opposite result.
Comforting for you or comforting for the people who were reading it?
A little bit
Or
of both.
both?
I was definitely doing a lot of caretaking at that point because there was a lot of people who were aware of the fact, like I was developing a lot of food intolerances. I was like, I just wasn't myself, and there was like people around that knew that. So it was like an easier, like, let me just post it and like everybody will know, like, here's what's going on. So it was a little bit of both, a little bit of like caretaking them just so that they can see, like, I'm fine, like it's a diagnosis of Hashimoto's, I'm fine. But I just found it really strange because I wasn't expecting so many people to respond that they had it.
Yeah.
And like I wanted to find that reassuring. And for whatever reason, I just found it like really frustrating.
Yeah, and it's like you said too, right? The exterior is not a reflection of the interior. Like, I mean, I can't even tell you, Sophie, I don't know what your story is, but I know for me, like I was that person, I was like smiling on the outside. No one would have fucking guessed that I looked death in the face at least 3 times in this lifetime. I was like, I looked fine. My words as they were wheeling me into the OR the morning of my first major surgery when my stomach was as hard as this desk was, I'm fine. I need to go. Yeah. And I looked okay. And they would always say that. They were like, but you look okay. And I'm just like, thanks, but I feel like shit. That's not helpful. So conversely to invisible illnesses,
I was gonna say invisible or silent illness
yeah.
is really challenging. I know for me, like with Hashimoto's, one of the things that I've had before is like this crushing fatigue feeling where I would feel like my cells weren't working. Like it was like I couldn't lift up like a purse without feeling like I was, 80. Like that was how I described my body. And I had a flare some point in the last couple of years. I had a flare and I had that fatigue come in one day. And I was like in tears because I was like, you're looking at me and I look like this. And Jeffrey's like talking, talking, talking. And I'm like, I don't think you understand what it feels like right now inside my body. It feels like I'm trapped in my own body. And but it was like also just talking about the story thing. It was interesting because it was like so far removed from the actual, I was diagnosed 12 years ago. So it was like, for me, I was like kind of what Kelly said earlier is like I know I got glutened, like it's okay, like it's gonna pass, versus like this is what I used to think would be like, this is, oh well, I'm gonna be out of commission for the next like X amount of days and like I'm never gonna be able to work again, and I'm never gonna be able to focus, like that stuff has really shifted with time and feeling like I have the tools to process a trigger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Powerful. Hi. Hi, Allie. Welcome.
That's so funny. Hi, Allie. You're literally right behind me.
Oh, that's so funny.
I can reach out and touch Sophie.
Oh,
Earlier.
that's so cute.
It's amazing. Reach out and touch a Selfie, if only.
And I am gonna hop onto my phone pretty soon because I gotta go back to Boulder. So
Sounds good. Yeah, so Ali, we were just discussing about the identity of being sick. So we're just talking about like what that means, right? If you have a specific diagnosis, like what is that meant to you? Are there, certain fears, or are there certain, like we're talking about, is this it? Like fear that I'm always going to be sick for the rest of my life, right? Things like that, limitations of the physical body, and fears around like, oh God, am I, am I going to be like this forever? Like, is this a bad flare? What does that mean? Like, does that mean, something else? Like in my case, anytime my stomach would feel kind of off, I'm like, oh shit, am I headed for another surgery? Like that was the mind loop that would just keep happening. And I have the scars to prove it. So, I mean, um, until I started to shift my reality. So if there's anything you want to share around that, you're more than welcome to. But if you just kind of want to absorb and, kind of get into the space first, that's cool too.
Yeah, I think like there's a couple of things that come up for me. Like I grew up in the Midwest and it was just wimpy to be sick, you know?
Mm,
And so I think it's like there's this whole thing around it's like two sides to it. Like I don't want to identify as being sick because it's wimpy, but maybe I should let myself acknowledge that I don't feel well, which is what I did that led to doing detox stuff and you know um but then there's still a certain part of me that judges myself all the time for
mm,
doing this work. And then on the other side, which I think is what we're talking about now, like in my calls with Sophie, we've been talking about kind of a lot of the pieces of my blood work and GI map and stuff are kind of pointing to maybe celiacs. And I have a very resistance to go to the doctor because I'm like, oh, what does that mean then if they tell me I have celiacs? And then, like you're saying, like, is it forever? Is it my identity? Is it,
mhm,
what is even the purpose of going and getting some sort of a diagnosis of that?
mhm,
Um, what would it do for me in
mhm.
general? Um, so I think, but then I think I also have, this is very complicated, but I think I
Well, very
also,
human. Go ahead.
yeah, of like, I am coming out of this dip now and I'm feeling better. And I was
Mhm,
talking to Sophie about this earlier, of like, when do I start to make the decision of like, no, Allie, you can challenge yourself, you can do something that's more intense for your body today. Uh,
mm,
and when do I stop like babying myself because I'm in healing mode?
mm,
Because that's where I'm at right now. Where I'm like used to saying, training myself to say, "Oh, be nice to yourself. Oh, you're in healing mode." But I'm starting to feel better. So I'm like, when do I like say go to hot yoga? Or, you know, I don't. Yeah. So, anyways,
You're making perfect sense, first and foremost. Okay. Because I know it's just like, am I babbling? Like, you're not babbling. It totally, totally makes sense. Um,
good.
Yeah, no, and it's just, again, it's like not necessarily complicated. It's just as humans, we're so multifaceted. There's so many parts of us, right? So there's the part that's like, well, I want answers. And the other part that's just like, well, I don't want to be identified with an illness. What the fuck does that mean? And like, what does it do for me is a powerful, powerful question. I don't know if you realize that yet or not. Um,
That's
oh,
what she keeps asking me in my mindset calls.
she's pretty good, isn't she?
Yeah.
I love you guys. Well, it's kind of interesting because, one of the things Carly and I talk about a lot with the mindset stuff is like, what am I making this to mean? Like,
Bingo.
something happens and then what am I making it to mean?
Mhm.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm doomed for all of time or I have an opportunity to grow. Like, same situation, two totally different perspectives. And that's challenging when you have symptoms popping up, but I think it's also like it can be an invitation to like decide to create your reality the way you want it to be created, right?
Yeah.
And like when do I err on the side of this is an opportunity to grow too much? Because I am used to like challenging myself, and
Mm.
when is it right to be okay with being chill? Or not saying I'm doomed for all time. Is there like a middle ground, I guess?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can also relate to that. I'll just say to like owning, Allie also owns her own business, hence the co-working space. And I think there's like so much self-development talk all the time. And like I was in like a self-development container with Carly for like, I mean, on and off for like, well, I don't know, like over a year. And I had been in business coaching for like 4 years. And I just finally was like, enough. Like I can't do any more things. I just need to listen to my own voice. And for me, getting quiet to listen is actually what is helpful. And also realizing that it's not like it's set for a year and then it's a new year. Now it's like every day for me is different. And so it's almost like what we were talking about earlier, where it's like the nourish and the release column and like picking from them and taking the pressure off that I need to get it right every single day. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be perfect or not perfect.
There is no perfect, if I may. Like, there is no perfect, there is right, wrong. Like, these are all labels that we put on it. Also, I don't know if this helps, but just knowing that your mind is wired to go to the negative, the worst case, the shit. Like, it's reptilian. That's what it does. And it's just like, hi, I see you. Okay. I see you going to the worst case scenario. I see you wanting me to like go and like kick my own ass to the extremes. Hi, what's really here? And as Sophie said, I mean, stillness is such a powerful tool. I can't say enough about it. We're going to get into that in another one of these calls for sure, because winter is such a beautiful time to really tap into what's underneath. But yeah, it's knowing that you don't have to get it right 100% of the time. You can't, right? So sometimes that can help to take some of the pressure off. And it can just be so much as stopping for a moment and being like, what feels right to me right now? And whatever answer comes up, that's your answer. Because I know it's so easy to be like, but did my mind say, if you're anything like me, did my mind say that? Did my heart say that? Did my womb space say that? What and can I trust this? First answer is usually your gut instinct. Go with it. And you know what? Like if it doesn't feel great, if it's just like, oh, I think I want to take a nap, and you're just like, yeah, maybe not. Maybe I want to go for a walk. Go for a walk. Like it's okay. Yeah. I think part of this too, at least from my perspective, is getting you back in touch with your inner healer, with your inner wisdom, right? With your intuition that's going to guide you. Do I want to go to the doctor and get the testing for celiac? Doesn't matter. Like for me personally, I'm just like, a diagnosis doesn't fucking matter to me. I'm like, all right, just something's off with my body. What do I need to do about it? How do I need to address this on my inner world and my outer world, physically, mentally, emotionally? And if I can handle that, me personally, I'm not going to go to the doctor, right? Unless I really, really have to. But it's a very personal decision. So, you feel into that is my invitation to you, and you'll know what's right for you. And that can change from moment to moment, day to day, week to week, month to month, and that's okay.
I'm just going to add one more thing before I'm on my phone and just listening mode probably. I would say the same thing goes for supplements. So with the caveat that, of course, I've spent hours putting your guys' supplement protocol together based off what I believe is true. So I would recommend you follow them. And sometimes we have bad reactions to supplements, or we feel like it's too much. And so like paring it down or skipping it one day or adding a binder, if you feel like listening to your body with that stuff too, right? Because like we're not in your body. Carly and I and Selvi, we're not in your body. I could give the same supplement to 10 clients, they could have 10 different reactions. So listening to what's working for you, Okay, I'm gonna log in on my phone.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. So, wrong way. God damn it. Technology, not necessarily my strong suit sometimes. Okay, so coming back to your thoughts, right? Do you ever have thoughts like, oh, my hormones are all over the place. My PMS drives me crazy every month. Or my gut health is out of control. Or in my case, my body's fucking possessed. Like, do you ever have thoughts like this? And if anyone wants to share, please feel free to, but you can also just nod and be like, I don't want to share my crazy thoughts with these people. Like, that's fine too.
I resonate with my body. I forget what the last one you just said, but I'm always like, it feels like I'm being hijacked. Like my nervous system's being hijacked.
Yeah, I used to be like, my body's possessed. Like, it's like my gut is fucking possessed. I swear there's an alien being in there. Like, what the hell?
I call Hashimoto's. I call him. He's a him, by the way. He's Hashi, and he is my alien baby.
Oh, see, mine is a him too, because I was like, no woman in her right mind would do this. So it's like, has to be a him. For me, it was Homer Simpson. So, okay. So if anyone wants to share their crazy thoughts, you're welcome to. If not, let's move forward.
I think mine is probably more attack. It's not necessarily attacking my body as something I don't have control over, but it's judging myself for what's going on in my mind that's causing what's going on in my body. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a mess. I work too much and then it makes me tired, and why do I do this? And that's where I get like really hard on myself with, yeah. But I think I have a pretty okay relationship with my body, but maybe not my mind.
Yeah. So, so your mind, but is this specifically in relation to your thoughts?
It's in relation to, I think, my behaviors.
Okay. Okay. But what's driving the behavior would be my question.
Probably my thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And they can be subconscious thoughts, right? It's not necessarily like, you're like, how can I make this harder on myself? So let me go do, yeah. I don't know of anyone in the right mind that would do that. So, okay. So, but in terms of these thoughts, whether they're conscious or unconscious, like sometimes for me, it was like, my body's a fucking piece of shit. Can't do anything. Like it literally can't shit right. Like, what the hell am I going to do with this thing? So if it's those kinds of like being hard on yourself, like why, it could even be like, why am I working myself so hard? Why am I doing this? Why am I stressing myself out? Why is my nervous system hijacked? I mean, fill in the blank, right? Do you believe that thought? That's my first question to you. Like when those thoughts come in, do you believe them?
For a
And you're,
second.
yeah, yeah.
And then I like question them.
And that's huge, right? So where I'm going with this is your thoughts become your beliefs, and then that becomes your reality, right? So if we're stopping and questioning them, it's great. And the other caveat is now if you're looking and you're seeing that your reality is still the same, some part of you subconsciously is still holding on to this thought, right? And I know sometimes we can get into this where we're just like overanalyzing our own thoughts, judging our thoughts. This shouldn't be here. I should be further along on my goddamn path. I've been doing this for 6 fucking months already. Why am I still here? Because you're human. Because you can't control your thoughts. You know, I've been on this path for over 10 years now. I still have random thoughts, like not so much about illness, although like there have been times where, you know, maybe I've eaten something that, you know, just didn't sit well with me, where my mind for a second, actually recently, trying to think exactly when this was, last year in Costa Rica, I went there for a spiritual retreat and my gut was out of control. It was like I got there and it felt like it was possessed again. And I'm just like, I'm having the runs, like it's burnt and like the whole thing. And I'm just like, my mind is going down crazy town, like on the railway to crazy town, like at 100 miles an hour going, oh shit, what the hell? Now I'm in a foreign country, now I don't know anybody here. And what if I wind up in the hospital and this doesn't feel so good? And God damn it, am I flaring or do I need another surgery? That's the end stop. Like, that's always the end stop. Do I need another surgery? Are they going to cut me open again? I'm like, get a fucking grip. Good Lord. So, my friend who was running the retreat, she also does energy healing and all this sort of stuff, which I do as well. But I didn't know it at that point in time. And so we wound up diving into a guided meditation kind of thing. And all of a sudden, this energy that was stuck inside of my energy field went out of my system. And I was fine. Like, it cleared up that quickly. But my beliefs were driving that whole process to keep getting worse and to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. This is not to say, oh God, now I need to put all this pressure on myself to get it right and to create the right reality. And been there, done that. I don't recommend that. All I am talking about is anytime that thought process starts to come up, or the self-judgment starts to come up, is there an opportunity to reframe it, to look at it from a slightly different lens, right? Knowing that our knee-jerk reaction is oftentimes colored by conditioning or society or what someone told you should do, right? Anytime you hear yourself shooting yourselves to death, like don't shoot yourselves to death. I'm getting off on 27 different tangents, but this stuff just excites me. I could talk about this all night. Sophie might have issue with that, but anyways. And plus, you guys probably want to get back to your lives. Okay, so in order to change your current reality, right, which is this identity of potentially being sick, or I have this, or those fears, right, of any time something is coming up, fatigue is coming up, or in my case, like, gut issues are coming up, or, what have you. It's like, in order to change that reality, we need to change your beliefs, right? Because you can't control your thoughts. Your thoughts are going to come up. Your thoughts are going to say, I have this diagnosis, the doctors told me this, da 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 da, right? That's fine. But when you're able to take a step back from that, right, and be like, okay, yes, maybe I have this diagnosis, but that's only one part of me. That's not me. That's not my entire existence. I am so much more than that. And I can be so much more than that. But in this moment in time, this is my reality, right? Maybe I'm fatigued and I need to take a 3-hour nap. Maybe I need to let myself off the hook. Maybe I need to stop working for an hour, right? Does that necessarily have to mean, oh God, here's another fucking limitation because this goddamn disease that that asshole diagnosed me with? Or is it just, my body needs this right now and I'm going to give it? Could it be that simple? Right? I think something for me that was really, really powerful to understand was that this diagnosis that I had was not something that I needed to fight. Like, there was no need for a war, right? It was not something to be beaten down or controlled or pushed away or ignored. It was just more, hi, I see you. So I want to drop you guys into a bit of an experience where you can potentially meet this part of yourself. How do you guys feel about that? Scary, exciting, exhilarating. If you haven't already thought that I'm on crack, I mean, you might now, but hey, you wouldn't be the only ones. All right. I know, right? I've never tried this stuff, but I use it like way too much in speaking. All right. So up to you guys if you want to leave your cameras on or turn them off, whatever feels good. You can stay seated, especially if you're tired. I invite you to stay seated. Actually, yeah, I think you can stay seated for this one. It should be fine. So I'll give you a moment to get settled, but yeah, if you guys are ready. I invite you to just go ahead and close your eyes. And go ahead and put your palms face up on your lap. And just take a moment to let go. Let go of the screen, let go of everything we've been talking about. And just go ahead and take a couple of nice deep breaths, breathing in through your nose. Out. Another nice deep breath, fill up your lungs, fill up your belly. And let it all go on the exhale. One more time. Nice big deep breath. Filling in as much as you can. And let it all go on the exhale. And I want you to go ahead and allow your breathing to come back to normal. And just take a moment to notice the quality of your breath. Noticing whether it's fast or slow, deep or shallow, warm or cool. Whatever it is absolutely perfect. Just notice this beautiful breath that nourishes you every moment of every day. Allow yourself to feel gratitude for that. I want you to go ahead and imagine roots, tree roots, coming from the base of your spine and spiraling downwards. Spiraling down through the floor and spiraling down through the crust of the earth and spiraling through all the layers of the earth, going deeper and deeper and deeper until those roots go all the way into the core of the earth. A fiery core that's powering the entire planet. And allow the energy from the core of the earth to come up those roots, coming up higher and higher and higher into the base of your spine, going up your spine and through your entire body, fueling you, feeding you, nourishing you, holding you. Now I want you to remember that you're safe and that you're held and that you're not alone. You're someone who resonates with spirit guides or angels or ancestors or just the power of the universe, source, God, whatever you identify with. Feel free to call that in as well. And I want you to think about either the symptoms that you're having or the diagnosis that you've been given. And just notice where you feel that in your body. Whether you feel a constriction, a tightening, or a numbness. Sometimes people discover like a pit in their stomach, or like they can't breathe, like their chest feels tight. Or it could be anywhere in the body. Sometimes it's in the pelvis, like it's just like, oh my gosh. Like my whole pelvis is tightening. So just notice. And if you can't feel anything, that's okay too. Just notice if you can. Does any one part of you feel kind of off, strange, unsettled, numb? And if you can feel something like that, bring your attention, bring your awareness. Imagine yourself going down a staircase into this energy, climbing down, going lower, going down another couple of steps until you get all the way to the bottom. And notice how it feels to be here. And if it's hard to breathe, just come back to your breath. Keep breathing. And it might feel warm. It might feel dark. It might feel uncomfortable. Standing here with all the strength that you have, with all the power that you have, if you've been dealing with any sort of symptoms for a while, trust me, you're a fucking warrior, so draw on that now. And invite this part of you to come and stand in front of you. And it might take the form of a ball of light. It might take the form of a being. You might just sense that there's a face in front of you, or you might just sense that there's something in front of you. Allow it to come out of your physical body. And take a moment to just look at it. Notice what you see. Notice how you feel. Is there an emotion that's attached to this part? Maybe it's angry, maybe it's scared, maybe it's sad. Just notice. Now ask it why it's here. Be surprised. Just let it speak. It's always here for a reason. And go ahead and ask it what it wants from you. And what it wants for you. Once again, just let it share. Now ask it what it needs from you. It might be compassion. It might be acceptance. It might be see me, hear me. Whatever it asks for, if you can give it to some extent, go ahead and give it, knowing that this is only one part of the infinite parts that make up the totality of you. Knowing that when this part of you is given what it needs, that it starts to calm down. That it stops being like an infant throwing a tantrum. And just melts along with all the other parts. And can you, even to 1%, accept 1% of this? And maybe it's here for you, not against you. Once it's at its peace, thank it for coming. And allow it to go back. To where it was, to where it wants to go. If any emotions are coming up, know that they're welcome. Take a moment to just give yourself so much love and so much compassion. It takes courage to go to these places. And if you didn't feel anything happening, it's okay. If this is your first time trying something like this, next time, try it again. Sure, feel the ground supporting you. Feel your hands, feel your feet on the floor. Go ahead and maybe wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes. And slowly come back. Hey, ladies. Does anyone want to share anything that they saw or heard? Or you're like, there she goes again, leaving some crazy shit. I didn't see anything, which is okay too. Yes, yes.
Yeah, I obviously couldn't participate, but
Mhm.
it's parts work, you know, just parts work. And Allie and I did some parts the other day. It was really cool, right, Allie? You were like, oh my gosh, parts.
Fun. Yeah.
Yes.
And
Oh, what were you gonna say, Sophie?
oh, I was just gonna say, I think it's really interesting that we like it's just one part of our whole self. I was talking to a friend who does parts work, a fellow parts work professional, and we were talking earlier, and we were talking about complex PTSD and how in the trauma world it's like, oh well, all of you has this trauma, right? But it's like actually like only some parts of you have that, like to start to shift that. And I guess like what I heard just in your voice, Selvi, was like, oh man, we get to choose and we get to see and we get to allow for this part of us to see us and to start to trust us and to start to recognize that it's not alone and it doesn't have to be burdened with this anymore. And like what you said at the beginning of like, you don't, when we shun those parts of us, they just get louder. They
Yep.
just get louder. And
Mhm.
it's like it is long-term work, right? I mean, you can listen to this audio every day and probably have a different part come up.
Right.
But it gets easier because you're giving them a voice and you're letting them know they're not alone.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I'm reading No Bad Parts right now, and it's something that Carly and I were trained in, and so that audio is just like super resonant for me right now. And that's all I wanted to say. And now
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop talking again.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, I know when I was first, doing this and I was just like, okay, this is ridiculously crazy. And yet like there's something here, like I don't understand. And for me, like I just remember bawling when I was just like, oh my gosh, this thing like hasn't been fighting against me all this time. Like I've been fighting with it when all it's ever wanted is just love and compassion and acceptance and is just screaming for attention. And here I am, like, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up. Like, get that. Yeah, that was effective. So, it can be really profound. All right. Does anyone have anything that they want to share? No pressure either way. You guys are good. That's cool.
I've been finding it kind of interesting over the last few days because I know that I coach my clients, so take this, whatever. But in authenticity and honesty, I tend to resist doing quantum time techniques where I like go back past like either past lives or even in the womb. Like I tend to stay in the here and now. And it's just interesting because over the last few days, I've been QTTing myself and even just now with the parts. And I keep jumping back to being in the womb. And it's like the same sensation of it's just so easy in here. Like I'm feeling the love and like my only job is to exist. And like I'm loved just for existing has been like the main takeaway over the last few days. So it was like really interesting. Like, and then there's like the aspect of like I can just rest in my little like, and I have a twin brother too. So like I don't know, there's just the last few days that's just where my mind has been wanting to go is like I want to be in the womb. I want my brother's heartbeat like right next to me and to know that like I'm always with somebody and I don't have to like do anything, be here.
Yeah. And that's actually true. I mean, the doing is a byproduct of the being, right? Sometimes we just get so focused on, I need to do this and I need to do that. But really, truly, if you all take nothing else away from this call, know that your very presence on this planet, in this world, whether you believe this or not, some part of you will believe it, is a fucking gift. Just by being. Not from anything you've done, not from anything you accomplished, not from anything you're doing, not because of whose daughter you might be or whose sister you might be or whose mother you might be one day or who your boss is or any of that. Like it doesn't matter. What really matters is what's inside, and that is pure love and the ability to heal and the ability to repair. And you have nothing to prove to anyone, let alone yourself. So yeah, you can rest in that space, knowing that you are perfect to just be, and you're not alone. It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, gets me emotional. Yeah, seriously. Go, Carly. All right. All right. I know we're at the top of the hour, so just invitation to chew on this potentially. Sophie, are we okay to go a few minutes over? Can you guys stay a few minutes over, or do you guys have to cut out right away?
Fine with
Okay.
me. I'm just in traffic.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump off. Thank you.
Of course, my pleasure. Okay, so this invitation to reflect on your own, if you'd like. What would it mean to be a healthy person? Right? Like, what would that look like? And I really, really, really invite you to take off the blinders of what does that mean? Right? Of pushing the boundaries of what might feel uncomfortable to some part of you. At least for me, like it just felt unsafe to even go there. So if that's you, I really invite you to allow yourself to dream. What would it be like? Like, what would that look like? You know, what would that mean to me? What would that free up inside of me? Right? How would that change how your body functions, and how would that change what your life looks like? And that all those answers don't need to pop up tonight or tomorrow, right? It's a process of inquiry. But heading into the end of the year, it can be really, really beautiful to see what can start to open up, right? What could that even look like? Because once your mind starts to conceptualize that, it can start to happen. If your mind hasn't seen it, it's like, well, where the heck am I going? Right? So even just things like, what does she wear? Where does she live? Who is she with? What is she doing? Right? So going beyond just the physical health into your whole life. I know at least for my clients, they tend to struggle. They're just like, well, I just want to feel better and I just want to be there for my family. Like, that's it. I'm like, okay, and what else do you want? So yeah. All right. I think I'm gonna leave it likely there for now. Does anyone have either any last thoughts, questions, anything you want to share? Do you want to go deeper into this kind of work? Like, what's resonating with you?
It was kind of interesting because when you were just now, the thought that popped into my head was like I'm not discounting myself from this part of this conversation, but it's just easier to talk in this way. But like healthy people are human too.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
they need to rest. They need to rest. They, like they get tired. So it was just like healthy people are human too. Like just being healthy doesn't mean that I'm infallible to like everything that the world has to offer.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's just moving from that place of not necessarily letting this diagnosis have power over you, or conversely, to be like, well, I don't even want to see that part, right? So it's finding that middle ground of what's right for me. And I really, truly believe that when you're in alignment with what's true for you, your body has no choice but to come back into balance, but to start to function differently. Like your cells will literally start to function differently as you come back into alignment. It's pretty wild. Yeah. Right. Any last closing thoughts or anything for anyone? If not, I'm happy to wrap up here. Okay. Cool beans. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time. This was amazing. I love geeking out on this stuff. So thank you for letting me be here with you. Yeah, me too. I was looking forward to this all day.
Thank you, Selvi. This was so good. I think I'm gonna maybe edit the audio that you did and see if we can put that into our course for all of time because it's just so good. It was really, really powerful.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm glad. Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Send it to all the people so they all know your amazingness.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure as always. And Have so much fun over this holiday season. Permission to do what it is that your body needs, what you need, you know. Yeah. Nourish yourselves. See you in the new year.
See you in the new year, everybody. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks, everyone.